Owned shop in Loganville, Soesby's Garage for all your automotive repair needs. We service all makes and models, foreign and domestic. We repair engines, alternators, brakes, alignments, AC systems, and more, using certified technicians with over 90 years of combined experience. We also offer same-day service for some repairs. Soesby's Garage, 200 Bay Creek Road in Loganville. Dependable, honest, and fair. Look us up on Google or Facebook. We'll take good care of you.
Broadcasting live from the Subaru of Gwinnett studio inside the Sonesta Gwinnett Place Atlanta Hotel. It's time for Case in Point, presented by Paradigm Security Services. We are the cornerstone of security in the Southeast.
Hey everybody, welcome to Case in Point, presented by Paradigm Security Services. I'm your host, Rick Strawn, the president of Paradigm Security Services, and we're excited to be with you today on Business RadioX. We're broadcasting live from the Subaru of Gwinnett studio, located in the Sonesta Gwinnett Place Atlanta Hotel in Duluth, Georgia. In addition to Paradigm Security Services, this show is also brought to you by Soesby's Garage. You probably heard that little clip there coming into it. A little public announcement for them. They are in dire need of a couple of master mechanics. They're growing like crazy, and everybody knows how hard it is to get a job, or actually to find somebody to work a job today. And Big John is looking for somebody to come in and help them out. They really need it bad. Great people to work for, 678-825-2127 and on Bay Creek Road in Loganville. That's Soesby's Garage. On every show, we feature things like businesses. We feature business and organizations in the Atlanta area, but especially those that serve our county here in Gwinnett. While all businesses and really people have security concerns, not all are about physical security. And we'll touch on that and other related aspects of security as we go through the course of our shows. One of the biggest things of security, I think, has to do with our government and our court systems. And we, of course, have these elections that have just come up. A lot of people are not paying attention, it seems like, that there is a very, very, very important election coming up here in Gwinnett County on the 21st, which is next Tuesday. For that, it's really, my ballot only has one race in it, and that race is important to this county. It's for the state court judgeship. I'll get my words together here and my teeth back in. Here in Gwinnett County. And one of the candidates for that position has been gracious enough to come on. That's Mr. Matt Miller. Glad to have you here, Matt.
Thank you for having me, Rick.
Well, I know so far early voting is showing that for this particular district in our county, there's been very little follow-up in voting on early voting. And people need to get that message. This is important. If you've only got to vote for one race, it's just as important as voting for 100 races. And when you have one race, it's even more important because people tend to sit on their rear ends and not go out and vote. And right now, they need to get out there and if not early voting, it won't take you probably 5 minutes from beginning to end when there's one person on your ballot on your voting on Tuesday.
And I agree completely with you, Rick. This election is very important. A lot of people that I'm meeting are saying that they don't even know that there is a race going on. This is a county-wide seat, so even if you think there is nothing for me to go and vote for on the 21st, there is. This race will determine who our next state court judge will be to replace the retiring Pam South. So it's very important that people realize that the election is going on and they get motivated to get out there and vote. As I was telling you earlier before we went on air, as of right now, with a county of 1 million people and 560,000 registered voters and 5 days of early voting already gone by, only 2,500 people have voted.
That's just crazy.
It's less than 1%. It's actually 0.5% of the registered voters have gone to the polls and voted. These numbers are extremely low. So as I've been telling everybody that I'm meeting, if you don't think your vote counts, it really counts in this election.
Absolutely.
I compare it to something along the lines of your vote is going to count 3 times what it will in November, maybe even 5 times. So take the time to do the research and get out there and vote.
Well, I totally agree, because when there is so few on the ballot to make choices in, those ballots are, when there's few people going out, your vote counts a whole lot. Well, just out of curiosity, for those that don't know, I like to always start with a question of who is the person. So who is Matt Miller?
That's a great question. Matt Miller is currently, by occupation, an attorney. And I've been practicing law since 2006. I'm a family man. I love my kids. I've got 3 children, ages 12, 10, and 7. I love my wife. I will say that she is my rock. She's everything to me. She is a school teacher at McClure Health Science High School here in Gwinnett County.
Terrific.
She's been doing that for a year now. Before that, she was a practicing healthcare professional. She was a doctor of chiropractic, and now she switched careers, and she is teaching the youth over there about medical terminology and medical things. I have been practicing law, like I said, since 2006. I grew up in Gainesville, Georgia, just down the road. I attended Gainesville High School. I did undergrad at Georgia State University, and then I did law school at the University of Tennessee. Hopefully nobody holds that against me. And then upon graduating from law school, I ended up taking the bar here in Georgia. I started practice at a medium to large-sized insurance defense firm. I did that for 2 years, and then I realized that I wanted something more. I wanted to actually be in the courtroom, whereas when I was working for the big firm, it was more about paper pushing. So I started my own firm in 2007, 2008, somewhere in there, and I did that for 13, 14 years. Mm-hmm. And pretty much when I was in private practice by myself, I took every type of case that came through the door. So I would practice all across the state of Georgia. I've done trials, and I've done cases from as far north as Rome and Dalton to as far south as Valdosta and Camden County. So I traversed the state when I was in private practice, and I handled all types of cases.
Sounds like you've handled enough of them for being a judge, that's for sure.
I would like to think so.
Well, you kind of gave us a little bit of your background. Have you got any other experience that for this position and stuff that, how do you feel about being as the judge for this race?
Well, yeah. Currently, in my current role, I am a prosecutor here in Gwinnett County. I prosecute the vehicular homicides that are held in state court. And those cases are typically accident cases where, unfortunately, somebody is deceased as the result of that. So I've tried cases here in Gwinnett County as a prosecutor. I've tried cases here in Gwinnett County when I was in private practice as a defense attorney. I did felonies and misdemeanor jury trials here. I also did civil work. I did car wrecks and slip and falls as plaintiff's lawyer. I also defended people. The very first case that I did in private practice was a personal injury car accident case that went to a jury trial. And the very last case I did in private practice was a state court contract case in which my client was being sued. So I have tried all types of cases across the large gamut of law. I like to say that, we need judges that are the most qualified. And to be the most qualified for a position like this, you had to have been in the trenches and actually out there trying cases. From
both sides.
Yeah, on both sides, on all sides. And I think that's what makes me the most qualified. I have tried cases on all sides of the law that a state court judge needs to be knowledgeable with. I'm the only candidate in this race that can honestly say that. And I feel like that is what distinguishes me from my opponent. I believe that also makes me the individual that can effectively and efficiently run the courtroom and make sure that it runs properly. So that's some of my selling points, and I would like people to consider voting for me.
Well, I'd say that's some pretty good selling points. But let me ask you a question. What's a state judge?
Well, this is a great question because I get this one all the time. When I meet people, they're like, oh, you must be running across the whole state. And that's not the case at all. Gwinnett County has in the judiciary what's called the Superior Court, which a lot of people are familiar with. They handle felony cases as well as civil, and a bulk of their work is family law issues, people filing for divorces, change of custody, things of that nature. In the 1970s, the state legislature created the state court system throughout the state of Georgia. And the state court system was created to alleviate a lot of the burden that the Superior Court had been experiencing. So they have jurisdiction over civil cases as well as criminal misdemeanor cases. Gwinnett County has currently 6 state court judge positions. There is a 7th that will be starting in January. The governor signed a bill to create a 7th state court position, and he will end up appointing that position January of 2023.
And then it'll fall into the election cycles?
And then it'll fall into the election cycles. The election cycle will be 2 years after that appointment. Mm-hmm. So that would be on the 2024
on the
ballot. And that will be an elected position as well. And so currently in the state of Georgia, only 120 of the 159 counties have a state court. And again, it was set up to alleviate a lot of the burden that the Superior Court was dealing with. A primary bulk of the work that a state court judge deals with is the civil. And if you're involved in a lawsuit, which you are suing somebody or somebody is suing you, it is very likely going to be in a state court somewhere in the state of Georgia if they have a state court system.
Well, I know that, of course, being in law enforcement, I'm familiar with the breakdowns, but a lot of people aren't familiar with those breakdowns and what state courts do. And civil reasons or civil cases are some of the most important cases that are dealt with by the normal everyday person. Most of the people don't go to court on the misdemeanors and all that kind of stuff that the state prosecutes. But a lot of people have to deal with those civil matters. As a business person, you just never know when you're going to be involved, and that's the type of stuff that it's important to have somebody that's just got a sound level head on them, that's tried everything, tried both sides, can step back from it, see both sides, and then make a good validated decision.
Yeah, you want judges that will make fair and proper rulings, judges that are knowledgeable with the law, and again, judges that have actually been in the courtroom and can assess the situation to make the right ruling.
So I guess that's pretty much why it matters as far as who we elect in these positions.
It absolutely does. I see, sadly, on a daily basis that you get some judges that do not know the law, and there are also judges that just do not follow the law. And I think it's important to elect judges that are committed to following the law, because to me, a judge isn't there to be a legislator. A judge is there to follow the law. It may not be something that they agree with.
An adjudicator.
Yeah, you're an adjudicator. You're there to make sure that people are following the law and that it's working the way that it was intended to.
That it's fair and blind.
Yes, sir.
Well, what would you say you see as the most important issues within the court system right now in Gwinnett County? Or in Georgia, for that matter?
Well, I kind of touched on it a little bit. To make sure that the courts are running efficiently and effectively. Coming out of the pandemic, obviously there have been issues with a backlog. So trying to catch up the cases and trying to catch them up quickly is something that needs to be done. And then obviously creating an environment in which everybody feels welcome. I think that while some courts do better jobs than others, but you need to make sure you got the proper interpreters there so that people can feel like their voice is actually being heard, because for somebody that doesn't live or to come from the United States, they may not speak English. And while we do have Spanish interpreters, Gwinnett is such a multicultural and diverse county that you need to make sure all the communities are reached. I also think, and this is something that I have been trying to get out there as well with my campaign, is just knowledge of the court system. I think that the bar in general and attorneys in general do not do a good enough job of teaching people what the court system is, why it's there, and why it's important. If we did a better job of telling people what the court system is and why it's important, I think more people would be motivated to make sure that the right people are elected to the positions that they're running for. Again, I meet people on a daily basis, and they have no clue that what a judge does, what they know from a judge they've seen on TV. Some people still are shocked when I tell them, hey, we elect judges. We elect judges here in Georgia for accountability, to make sure that there is a judge that's following the law and doing the right thing. And people just don't know. Yesterday, my wife and I were out knocking on doors, introducing ourselves to people, and so many of them were like, I had no clue that there was an election going on. I had no clue that it was so important to vote for the judge in this race. And getting the word out is something that I feel like lawyers in general and the Gwinnett Bar could do a better job of. I always take the time every year to go to my kids' elementary school to do the career day, to explain to them why it's important to look into potentially becoming a lawyer down the road. You know, little kids always want to be firefighters and police officers, but the judges and the lawyers serve a very important role of making sure our community thrives and is safe for everyone.
No, I totally agree. I know when I was a young kid in Indiana high school, one of my biggest thoughts was I wanted to be an attorney. Even took 3 years of Latin. Boy, that was an interesting 3 years. But then with the basis going in the police department, every time you turn around, you're getting moved and shifted. You get to school and they move you. Then you have to drop classes and move around. I finally gave up on that and just focused on being law enforcement.
Well, just remember, it's never too late. We could always use some good lawyers out there.
Yeah, well, when you reach my age, it might be getting there. I'd have to put a lot into it. But, you've kind of touched on it, the why I should vote. When you want to reach out there and just shake somebody and get it through their head, what would you tell them of why you should vote?
Again, this is such an important race. It is a nonpartisan race. It is on every ballot. Our election will be decided on the 21st. This is a runoff. In the general, which was held on the primary day back on the 24th, I received the most votes. I got 5,000 more than my nearest opponent. But Georgia does have a 50+1 rule. So I did not get to the 50%, despite I was in the mid-40s. It is important because you want to know, if you are involved in the court system, that you are getting a fair judge that knows the law and is going to make sure that justice is handed out properly. And that's why it is so important to look into my race and get out there and vote. Again, voting will literally take 5 minutes tops. My wife and my mom went and we early voted this weekend, and it took us probably 7 minutes to vote for all three of us, and that was mostly because my mom's older and she had to.
Hey, wait a minute now.
She had to get through it all, but it was so quick, and something that I found a little disheartening is when I was speaking with the people there at the elections board off of Grayson Highway, and they were like, "Yeah, it was 1 o'clock on Sunday, and they said that we were voters 94, 95, and 96.
That's just terrible
to vote.
That's
and
terrible.
It's like,
yeah, people they just got to get out and vote. Well, I've talked with Judge Kaysen, and she's talked about the backlog and everything. And, she's talked a lot about a lot of the pressing issues within the Superior Court area. What do you see as the most pressing issues right now in the state court area of Gwinnett County that you're going to have to deal with on a day-to-day basis?
Well, like I said, there is the backlog. When the pandemic happened, courts did shut down for a little bit. And then trying to reimagine a lot of things that I had always seen as issues in the state court. And the court system in general is very opposed to change. And that's a good thing in some regards, but in some regards it's not. Technology exists, and for the longest time in the court system, everything had to be filed by paper. You had to go down to the courthouse and file it. Now the technology is there where you can file online. Gwinnett was one of the very last counties to implement e-filing. And I don't know if it would have happened with or without the pandemic, but the pandemic definitely expedited that process. And the use of technology in general is something that the court system needs to be more open to doing, and some of the judges have started to embrace that as a result of the pandemic. But when you can hold a motions hearing via Zoom or another online platform where people can appear, it makes it easier for everybody because you're looking at people that have to come and testify.
Not disrupting your whole day for what's going to might take you 20 minutes.
Yeah, and even with police officers as well. A police officer is going to testify in a case. That means that they have to be brought off the street and put in a courtroom and have to wait until
all day long.
Yep, until their testimony is needed. Whereas with the use of the technology, and you can have them still out on the road, have them call in and testify that way so that they don't have to come there and be right there and taken away from their primary role, which is to protect us.
I tell you, I would have loved to have seen that back in the day when I was being in a street. Of course, I didn't even have a computer in my car. It was so long ago. But to be able to sit there and pull it up, and the officer now could sit there in his car on his laptop computer and actually do a Zoom call and testify and never come off his beat.
Correct. Versus what has happened in the past where they have to actually physically come and sit there and have to wait until it's their turn to get out there and testify. Now with the technology, it's better for the community as a whole.
I guess it's probably then what it takes is a lot of movement, a lot of push from people that are in the judgeships in order to make all that happen.
Correct, and you have to have people that are willing to think outside of the box and take advantage of the technology that's there and the opportunities that are there so that the court system works better for the community and works better for Gwinnett County as a whole.
Well, there are so many things that have come up as we've moved through and get to the future that the technology is just crazy the way it's changed. I can remember in 97, I think it was 96 when we got our first computer. I chewed my wife out for getting something online called AOL. So we don't ever go on there. What do we need that for? We couldn't do without it today. And it would be such a benefit to the court systems. I know a lot of it is coming into place and has been put in place, but there's still a lot more they can do.
And as you know, technology is always changing and is always developing, and things that we can't even imagine right now will probably be
the standard.
The standard in 10 years. I mean, we got our phones sitting here in front of us. You were just talking about the computer. Those old, big, bulk computers now are completely obsolete, and this little device has way more memory and is way more capable of doing things than what those big
massive
things.
computers
Yep.
were. Well, I know there's differences between you and your opponent and your background and you being a trial lawyer, but if you wanted just a last chance to just tell people out there why it's important to vote for you in this election, what would you tell them?
Again, you want judges that have actually been there and done the work. Those judges are the best judges to make sure that justice is doled out effectively and efficiently. You want judges of high integrity and judges that are the most qualified. I implore everybody to go check out my website, www.electmattmiller.com. Again, it's electmattmiller.com. I have a YouTube video out there explaining who I am, why I am the most qualified for the position. I've got a Facebook page. And most importantly, I just want to stress to everybody out there that may be listening, go vote. Go vote, become informed, and take 5 people with you to vote. These races are extremely important, and again, it will be deciding the next judge of Gwinnett County, and it's a 4-year term, so it's a long term before it would be back up for re-election. So you want the most qualified people in the positions because it can affect you, it can affect your family, and you want to make sure that the best people are making the right decisions.
Well, good advice, and just tell people that you never know when you're going to go be before a judge, whether it be at a state court level, like we were talking about on a criminal level, or you end up in a civil suit as a business person. And for business people, you've got to have the right judges in there that not think your way, but think fairly and balanced. And we're willing to make that decision because you're not always right as a business person. You haven't always made the right decision, but a lot of the times you do, and all of the time you feel like you do.
and you want to feel like you're getting a fair shake.
Absolutely.
When you get in front of a judge.
Absolutely.
And it's important.
Well, like I say to everybody every week here, it's absolutely important and imperative that you vote. But just as important is that you vote informed. And so get out there, pay attention. Remember that next Tuesday, if you don't vote early, and do you know when the early voting ends?
Early voting ends on Friday at 7 p.m., and then the election is on Tuesday the 21st, 7 to 7. Again, turnout has been so low, and I would love to see that reversed. But the only way that it will be is if everybody informs everybody else to get out there
everybody,
and vote.
Get off your butts. Get out there. Tell your people, tell your friends, tell your family that it's not over. You need to get out there and vote. The voting is not over until June the 21st. And then we start all over again, headed for November.
Right.
But it is really important. June 21st of this year, next Tuesday, the runoff election. The only one you may have on your ballot is this election for a state court judge here in Gwinnett County. But it's important. Your vote counts even more when you only got one person to vote for, and there's not many out there voting. So I want to thank you all for joining us on Case in Point, presented by Paradigm Security Services and in part by Soulsby's Garage. Again, remember he needs some master mechanics. Be sure to join us for the live broadcast every other Wednesday at 11:30 a.m. here on Business RadioX. If you missed the live broadcast, no worries. You can enjoy the show anytime by visiting businessradiox.com, selecting the Gwinnett studio, and then clicking on Case in Point. This program is also available on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, or wherever you enjoy your favorite podcasts. And please be sure and hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss any of our future episodes. For my guest, Matt Miller, running for a judge with State Court, and for my producer, Mike, I'm Rick Strawn. And remember, at Paradigm Security Services, we cover more than just your assets.